Most peach growers will never figure out why their tree stopped growing. They'll blame the soil, blame the weather, maybe even blame the variety, and they'll lose 3, 4, 5 more seasons chasing the wrong answers, while the real problem sits right in front of them, invisible because they don't know what to look for. If you're serious about growing peaches that actually perform, trees that push strong new wood every season, set heavy crops, and stay productive for decades, then subscribe right now and hit the bell. Every week on this channel, I put out practical, field-tested peach growing knowledge that you won't find in any gardening book or extension pamphlet. This is from the orchard, not the library. Here's what I'm going to give you in this video. I'm going to walk you through exactly what causes peach trees to stall around that 3-year mark, what's happening biologically that you can't see from the outside, what professional growers do to diagnose it and fix it fast, and what you can do this season to get your tree pushing growth again. By the time this video is over, you'll look at your tree differently and you'll know what to do about it. Let's get into the reality of what's happening, because the frustration with stalled peach trees is real and it's widespread. You put in the work, you planted the tree correctly, you watered it through establishment, you fertilized it in spring like everyone says to do. Years 1 and 2, the tree responded. You saw growth. You got excited. Then somewhere in year 3, sometimes late in year 3, sometimes right at the start of year 4, the tree just flatlines. The new shoot extension drops to almost nothing. You're measuring 6 inches of new growth where you should be measuring 20 or more. The canopy looks frozen in time, like the tree took a photograph of itself and decided to just stay that way. What happens next is where most growers make the situation worse. The first instinct is to throw more fertilizer at it. When that doesn't produce a visible result within a few weeks, they water more. When that doesn't work, they prune harder. When that doesn't work, they go online, get 5 different answers, try 2 of them in the wrong sequence, and end the season more confused than when they started. I've watched this happen to experienced gardeners, smallholder farmers, and people who grew up working the land. The problem is not lack of effort. The problem is misdiagnosis. They're treating the symptoms, slow growth, minimal extension, poor vigor, without identifying which of several distinct root causes is actually driving the problem in their specific tree. And here's what makes peach trees particularly deceptive at this stage. A stalled tree in year 3 still looks reasonably healthy. The leaves are green, there's no obvious disease, it might even produce some fruit. So it doesn't trigger the alarm bells that a clearly sick tree would trigger. Growers file it under establishing slowly and give it another year, which is exactly the wrong move. Because every year you leave the underlying problem unaddressed, it compounds. The root zone gets harder to fix, the branch structure gets more congested, the soil biology degrades further. What could have been corrected in 1 season with the right interventions becomes a 2 or 3 year recovery project.
Now let me give you the biology behind this, because understanding it changes how you respond to it. Peach trees are among the most naturally vigorous stone fruits when conditions are right. The growth you see in years 1 and 2, that surge of extension, the rapid canopy development, is driven by something specific. It's driven by active root exploration. Young peach roots are constantly pushing into undisturbed soil, and every time a root tip enters fresh, loose, oxygenated soil, it triggers a growth signal that travels up through the vascular system and tells the shoots to extend. This is not a metaphor, it's a measurable hormonal response involving cytokinins produced at root tips and transported upward through the xylem. The tree is saying, conditions are good, expand. By year 3, that exploration phase is over in most growing situations. The root system has mapped out and filled the available soil volume. If that soil volume is healthy, loose, biologically active, well-drained but moisture retentive, the tree transitions smoothly into its productive phase and continues growing just at a more measured rate. But if the soil has issues, and in most backyard and small farm setups it does, the tree hits a wall. Compaction from foot traffic, irrigation, or equipment reduces soil oxygen levels in the root zone. When oxygen drops, root tip activity drops. When root tip activity drops, cytokinin production drops. When cytokinin production drops, shoot extension stops. The tree isn't broken, it's responding perfectly rationally to a hostile soil environment. It shifts from expansion mode into conservation mode, and conservation mode looks exactly like a stalled tree. Layered on top of this is a secondary problem that hits at almost the same time, the depletion of specific micronutrients in the active root zone. Zinc and boron in particular get consumed rapidly during the first 2 years of active root growth and shoot development, and in most soils that haven't been specifically prepared for stone fruit production, these elements are not replenished by natural soil processes fast enough to meet the tree's needs. Zinc deficiency causes compressed internodal spacing. The gaps between buds on a shoot get shorter and shorter until new shoots look stubby and clustered. Boron deficiency causes shoot tip abortion and poor fruit set. Both deficiencies produce symptoms that look like the tree is slowing down rather than showing a classic disease or nutrient deficiency picture, which is exactly why they get missed. There's also the pruning history factor, and this one is underappreciated. The way a peach tree's scaffold is shaped in years 1 and 2 determines how efficiently it can move carbohydrates and water in years 3 and beyond. A poorly shaped scaffold, too many competing leaders, branch angles that are too steep or too flat, crossing branches that create rubbing wounds, creates energy bottlenecks. The tree can be photosynthesizing adequately and still fail to distribute that energy efficiently to the shoot tips because the vascular pathways are compromised. This shows up as uneven growth across the canopy, with some branches extending normally while others barely move, a pattern that often gets misread as a disease or pest problem when it's actually a structural one. Here's how professional and commercial growers approach this situation, step by step, because the sequence matters as much as the individual interventions. Step 1 is a root zone physical assessment before anything else. Walk to your tree and stand at the drip line. That's the imaginary circle on the ground directly below the outermost edge of your canopy. Push a metal rod, a long screwdriver, or a soil probe straight into the ground. In healthy orchard soil, it should slide in to 12 inches with moderate hand pressure. If it stops at 4 or 5 inches, you have compaction, and nothing else you do will work at full effectiveness until you address it. Use a broad fork or a garden fork, working it into the ground at the drip line and moving around the tree in a circle, loosening the soil without cutting the large structural roots. Then apply a thick layer of wood chip mulch, minimum 4 inches, ideally 6, from about 3 inches away from the trunk all the way out past the drip line. True wood chips, not bark mulch. The difference matters because wood chips from mixed wood species feed fungal networks that peach roots depend on, while bark mulch primarily feeds bacterial networks and can actually suppress the soil fungi you need. Step 2 is a proper soil test with a commercial or extension laboratory, not a box store kit. You need actual numbers for pH, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and ideally zinc and boron. Peach trees require a soil pH of 6.0 to 6.5. Outside that range, nutrients that are present in the soil chemistry become physically unavailable to roots. You can have perfectly adequate phosphorus levels in your soil and have a phosphorus-deficient tree because the pH is sitting at 5.4 or 7.1. If your pH needs correction, apply agricultural lime to raise it or elemental sulfur to lower it, and understand that this correction moves slowly. Give it 3 to 4 months before retesting. Don't try to correct pH and add fertilizer simultaneously until you know your baseline, because adjusting pH changes how all your existing soil nutrients behave, and you can create new imbalances while trying to fix old ones. Step 3 is addressing the micronutrient situation directly through foliar application, because waiting for soil corrections to move zinc and boron into the root zone takes too long when your tree is already stalled. In early spring, before bud break, spray the entire tree, trunk, scaffold branches, all of it, with a zinc sulfate solution at the rate specified on the product label for stone fruits. Repeat this application at petal fall. Do the same with a soluble boron product like Solubor, applied at the same timings. Foliar nutrition bypasses soil chemistry entirely and gets these elements directly into the leaf and bud tissue within 48 to 72 hours of application. You won't fix a systemic zinc deficiency with 2 foliar sprays, but you will give the tree enough to break out of the growth stall while the soil corrections are working in the background. Step 4 is a structural pruning audit. This is not a pruning session, it's an assessment. Get inside the canopy and look at the framework. Identify any branches that are crossing and rubbing against other branches. Identify shoots coming straight up from horizontal scaffold limbs. These are called water spouts, and they're energy sinks that contribute nothing to the fruiting structure. Identify any areas where 3 or 4 branches are competing for the same space and shading each other out. Make a plan before you cut anything. Then remove crossing branches first, water spouts second, and finally open the canopy center enough that you can see patches of sky when you look upward from inside the tree. Never remove more than 20 to 25% of the total canopy volume in a single pruning event. On a stressed tree, hard pruning triggers another stress response and can push back your recovery by a full growing season.
Step 5 is restructuring your irrigation approach. This is the step most growers skip because they think irrigation is already handled. Deep, infrequent watering, soaking the soil profile to 18 inches every 10 to 14 days during the growing season, depending on temperature and rainfall, builds a deep root architecture that anchors the tree into stable, biologically active subsoil. Frequent shallow watering does the opposite. It keeps roots clustered in the top 6 inches of the soil profile, exactly where compaction is worst, where temperature swings are most extreme, and where competition from weeds and ground covers is most intense. If you've been running a drip system on a daily or every other day schedule, cut the frequency and double the application volume per session. Give the water time to move deep into the profile before you apply more. Let me stop here for a moment and ask you something, because I want to understand your situation. Has your peach tree shown uneven growth across the canopy, where one side or one branch is pushing normally and another side looks completely stalled? Drop the word uneven in the comments right now if that's what you're seeing. Or if your whole tree is stalled uniformly, type uniform. This distinction actually tells me a lot about which of the causes I've described is most likely driving your problem, and I'll be responding to comments this week. Now let me take you through what this looks like when you're actually standing in front of the tree, because reading about this and seeing it are different things. Look at the wood from last year's growing season on your stalled tree. On a productive peach tree, that wood should be clearly distinct, lighter in color, smoother in texture, with visible growth coming off it this spring. Now look at the spacing between buds on that wood. Count the buds along a 6-inch section of last year's shoot. On healthy wood, you should see 4 to 6 buds spaced relatively evenly. On zinc-deficient wood, you'll see 8 to 10 buds in that same space, packed together, with almost no internodal gap between them. That compressed spacing is one of the clearest field indicators of a micronutrient problem causing the growth stall. Now look at the color of the new spring growth, the leaves that have just opened. Healthy new peach leaves are a bright, slightly glossy green. On nitrogen-deficient trees, they'll be pale green to yellow. On zinc-deficient trees, they'll be smaller than normal and may show a faint mottling between the veins. On boron-deficient trees, the very newest growth at shoot tips will look slightly distorted, wrinkled, or may have already died back. Take a photo of what you're seeing before you start any treatment. It gives you a baseline to compare against in 4 to 6 weeks when you're evaluating whether your interventions are working.
Look at the soil surface around the base of your tree. If you don't have mulch and the soil surface is bare, look at its texture. Is it crusty? Does water pool on it briefly when it rains before soaking in? That crust is a surface compaction layer, and it's a symptom of the deeper compaction that's restricting your root zone. Is grass or weeds growing up to the trunk? Grass in particular, even long grass, competes aggressively with peach roots in the top 6 inches of soil, and research on stone fruit nutrition has shown measurable yield and growth differences between trees with managed understory and trees with grass competition all the way to the trunk.
Here is the golden tip, and I want you to pay close attention because this one is genuinely underused by backyard and small-scale growers, despite being standard practice in high-performing commercial orchards. In late winter, 4 to 6 weeks before you expect bud swell, drench your root zone with a biostimulant product containing live mycorrhizal fungi spores and humic acid. Apply it as a soil drench, watering it in thoroughly so it moves into the active root zone. What mycorrhizal fungi do is extend the effective reach of the root system by forming a network of fine threads called hyphae that penetrate soil spaces too small for roots to enter. These threads mine phosphorus, zinc, copper, and water from volumes of soil the roots themselves will never access, and they deliver these resources directly to the root system in exchange for carbohydrates from the tree. This is a symbiotic relationship that healthy native soils maintain naturally, but that most managed and cultivated soils have lost through tillage, herbicide use, and synthetic fertilizer dependence. Restoring this relationship with an inoculant application can produce visible growth improvements within a single season that nothing else in your input program will replicate. Humic acid in the same drench improves the soil's cation exchange capacity, meaning the nutrients you apply afterwards stay available to the root system longer instead of leaching or binding to soil particles. Now, before I close this out, let me give you the mistakes that I see repeatedly in growers dealing with stalled trees, because knowing what not to do is sometimes more valuable than knowing what to do. Never apply a high nitrogen fertilizer in an attempt to force growth on a stressed tree. Nitrogen, without the supporting soil biology and root health to use it effectively, produces excessive, soft vegetative growth that looks impressive for a few weeks and then crashes. And it does this at the expense of root development and structural wood formation. Never correct pH and apply fertilizer at the same time without a soil test baseline, because you're changing the rules of the game while you're playing it, and you have no way of knowing what you've actually done. Never prune aggressively on a tree that's already stressed. The stress response to hard pruning on a compromised tree is a measurable setback. And never ignore the irrigation pattern. Watering schedule is responsible for more growth stalls in established trees than any nutrient deficiency, because it determines the entire architecture and health of the root system that everything else depends on. Fix the root environment, and the tree will do most of the rest on its own. Here's the truth about peach growing that took me years to fully accept. The difference between a struggling tree and a high-performing one almost never comes down to genetics, location, or luck. It comes down to whether the grower learned to read the tree accurately and respond to what it's actually communicating. Every symptom has a cause. Every cause has a fix. And the growers who get it right are not smarter or better resourced. They're just paying attention to the right things in the right sequence at the right time. You now have the framework to do exactly that. If this channel hasn't earned your subscription yet, let me make the case one more time differently. I am not going to waste your time with content you could read from the back of a fertilizer bag. Everything on this channel is designed to make you a more capable, more confident peach grower. The kind who can walk into the orchard, look at a problem, and know what to do. That's what this community is building together, and I want you in it. Next week, we're going into peach fruit thinning, specifically the timing and technique that most growers either skip entirely or do wrong, and why getting it right is the single biggest lever you have over fruit size, flavor, and next year's crop load. If you want big, sweet, market-quality peaches instead of dozens of small, tasteless ones, that video is not one to miss. See you out there.